Hello, this is Gary from VR Roundtable again, and I just wanted to very briefly talk about something we touched on in the last episode of VR Roundtable, episode 26, and this is to do with memories formed in VR. It was something that John Carmack commented on shortly before the release of consumer VR, or even the year before actually. I think I remember reading about him talking about this. And he said that memories formed in VR can be just as real as those memories formed outside of VR. When you think back, you don't sort of differentiate the two. And this struck me last week actually, because I was talking about playing through Mission ISS on the show. Now, Mission ISS is it's an experience from Oculus Studios, and it places you inside the International Space Station, and you can go around and explore and do various things in this experience. It's pretty good. But the part about this game that really struck me was where there's a certain section where you have to guide an external arm on the space station and guide it into a supply drop that's coming in. So in order to do this, you control a joystick, two joysticks actually, and you control the rotation in the direction of the arm. But in order to do this and guide this successfully, you can't just look out a window and see the arm directly. You have to observe 3 monitor screens that are placed in front of you within the International Space Station, a certain part of the space station. So you focus in on the screens that are in front of you in order to guide this arm in, and I actually really struggled with this part. It turns out I was actually trying to guide the arm into the wrong part of the supply drop, so that's why I was having problems. But while playing through this, I was really focused in on just concentrating on these 3 screens, and that's the point I want to make, because my focus and attention was really on these 3 screens that were being rendered within virtual reality. And then outside of these 3 screens, the entirety of the space station was being rendered as well. But when I thought about this after I'd played through it, and I was just sort of thinking back to that section because I struggled with that part in particular, I had a memory of just looking at 3 monitors, and I didn't really pay any attention to the fact that this whole space station was really being rendered around me as well in virtual reality. I just sort of had this experience that I was sitting within this place and looking at these 3 monitors, and that was my memory. And it was so real that these monitors could have been, because when we look at monitors within virtual reality, the resolution doesn't really matter too much for the most part. You can see things clearly, and they just look like TV screens. And this is the thing. Now that made me think about what John Carmack said, in these memories that are formed can be just as real in virtual reality as they are outside of it. So taking this further, it sort of rang true to me, because virtual reality can take in your whole vision, it can surround you, it places you within a world, and the memories formed are really just a sort of amalgamation, I suppose, of all your senses coming together. So within this particular experience, the International Space Station, obviously within that experience you're in zero gravity and you're floating around, so my senses weren't really telling me that, but everything else, the sight and the sound around me really did ring true to me being within this place. And when I was playing sort of monitor games or TV games, like a couple of years ago I picked up The Last of Us on PlayStation 4 and played through that. Now my memory of playing that game is sitting in my own living room in my house and playing through the game, staring up at the TV and, enjoying it. I enjoyed every minute of that game. I think it's great, but I didn't really have a memory of being within this post-apocalyptic world. I had a memory of sitting in my own living room staring at a TV screen, and that goes back to what I was just saying. Within virtual reality, my memory is I was sitting wherever I was. It just happened to be in a space station staring at 3 monitor screens, and that was my memory. When I think back to playing a 2D flat game like The Last of Us, I'm sitting down in my chair in my living room, staring up at a TV screen and playing a game. That's my memory. So this, I think, highlights in some ways just what the difference is with virtual reality and flat gaming. I'm not saying that there's no value to flat gaming or anything like that. I'm certainly not saying that. I'm just talking specifically about the memories that are formed while playing through some of these games and experiences. And it's just made me think of this thing that John Carmack said a few years ago, and it's very interesting to me that all this takes place, and it just makes me think of the future of these memories, because this is really the first time that I can comment on something similar to what John Carmack was talking about. This is just really hit me. And when I think about other experiences that I've played, I am within these settings. It's not to say that these memories are realistic. I don't think back to playing budget cuts and think I was in this sort of polygonal world and just really trying to sort of work my way through and navigate my way through all these robots that are around. I don't think it's got to that stage, obviously, but it's just interesting to me that with this one particular part of Mission ISS that I did have this sudden realization of what John Carmack was talking about. And just thinking of the future, we've got photogrammetry at the moment, which is fantastic. It can really place you in some of these real world situations. But when that technology advances a little more and we've got high resolution displays with a much wider field of view, so you really do feel like you're in these places, I can imagine that the memories formed within these types of experiences in the future will be even more visceral than they are now, even more real. They'll seem more real. And I just wonder, where we'll get to a stage where we can have realistic avatars, so you can be looking over to see somebody who is on the other side of the world effectively, and yet they're being rendered in avatar form in a photogrammetry scene of the Grand Canyon or something like that, and everything is just such high resolution it's barely distinguishable from reality. And you've got this person standing next to you that's also being rendered very realistically. They've got some kind of technology which allows you to see their realistic expressions that they're making in real life, and all of this kind of stuff. I know I'm talking sort of probably 20-30 years into the future at this point, but it's just interesting to me because that will really be the point where I think you'll get to the stage where you'll forget if you experienced a certain memory in real life, or if you did experience it within VR. At the moment, we're obviously not there at that stage, but it just makes you think of what will happen in the future and if that will be a possibility. I'm not sure, but it's just an interesting subject, really. But this was just a very brief video just on that topic because I wanted to explore it a little bit further than what I mentioned in the show. But I'm sure you've got your own opinions on this as well, so feel free to leave a comment below. And thanks for watching this video. I'll see you next time.
Hello, human. Welcome to an accurate simulation of convenience store clerk.